One of the most important lessons you can learn when dealing with the metric system is about how to measure length. So if we take a look at English versus metric units, we have three comparisons here: 1 mile or 1 kilometer, 1 yard or 1 meter, 1 inch or 1 centimeter. Which is the longest? If you guess that 1 mile is longer than 1 kilometer, you're correct. If you guess that 1 meter is longer than 1 yard, you are also correct. Notice here that 1 meter stick ends here, 1 yard stick ends here, while 1 meter stick continues on. And finally, 1 inch is longer than 1 centimeter. You see on our close-up view of a metric ruler, 1 inch is here, but 1 centimeter is all the way back here. The basic unit of length in the metric system is the meter, and that's represented by a lowercase m. But where did that length actually come from? The standard, or the definition of what 1 meter actually looks like, is the distance traveled by light in an absolute vacuum. An absolute vacuum is something like space. In 1,299,792,458 of a second. That's really fast, but it's basically how fast light can go in that amount of time. We know that 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. We also know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And finally, we know that 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. So if we look at our comparisons down here, letter A says, which is larger, 1 meter or 105 centimeters? By applying a little logic, we can figure out, well, if 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, that must mean 1 meter is the same as is less than 105 centimeters. Letter B says 4 kilometers or 4,400 meters. Which is larger? Well, we know that 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters, so 4 kilometers must be 4,000 meters. That means 4,400 meters is larger. The next one's a little trickier. 12 centimeters or 102 millimeters. 12 centimeters, you have to know how many millimeters are in a centimeter. And that answer is 10. So 10 times 12 is 120. That means 12 centimeters is longer than 102 millimeters. Finally, 1,200 millimeters or 1 meter. Which one is larger? Well, we know up here that there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter, so 1,200 millimeters must be larger than 1 meter. Let's take a look now at how a meter compares to some everyday objects.
Athletic tournaments throughout the world measure in metric dimensions. This diving board, 10 meters high. An Olympic-sized pool is 50 meters long. Meter, base unit for length.
Meter, about as long as a baseball bat. A meter can be the length of an average person's long step. For most people, that is.
The height of a handle on a standard door is about 1 meter from the floor.
So how many millimeters are in 1 centimeter? If you were listening just a moment ago, take a look here. This represents a short piece of a meter stick. We have from 0 centimeters to 1 centimeters, all the way up to more than 3 centimeters. The great thing about measuring length in the metric system is that every time you see a number written on your measuring tool, any line in between two numbers represents the decimal. So all you have to do to take a look at measuring something is know how many numbers does your object measure, and then you would put a decimal point after that whole number and count how many lines are after it. That number would go after the decimal point. So back to our question, how many millimeters are in 1 centimeter? Well, if we take a look from here to here is 1 centimeter. If we count these lines, that represents the number of millimeters from 0 centimeters to 1. As it turns out, there are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. Using that, take a look at down here. What is the length of this line in centimeters? And when it asks a question like that, it's looking for the exact length. That includes both the whole number in centimeters and any part of a centimeter that you see. So if we look here, we've got more than 1, more than 2, less than 3. So we know that our answer is going to be greater than 2 and less than 3. That means we need a decimal to represent the part that's between 2 and 3. So my answer would start with 2, and then I would write a decimal point, and then all you need to do is count the lines and write that number after the decimal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that the 5 line is just a little bit longer. It makes it easier for you to see exactly where 5 should be. 6, 7, 8. It appears that our blue line is 2.8 centimeters. Now what is the length of that line in millimeters? Well, if we want to find out in millimeters, we would ignore the whole numbers written on the ruler and just look at the lines in between. But there's a faster way to do this than just by counting each individual line. All you need to do is remember that there are 10 millimeters in each centimeter. So from here to here is 10, from here to here is another 10, so that would be 20. But we know that it doesn't go all the way up to 30. So from 20 we have 25, 26, 27, 28. Hey, what do you know? If we move our decimal point one place to the right, we get from centimeters to millimeters. Finally, you might see questions that ask, what is the length of the line to the nearest centimeter? This means I want you to round to the nearest centimeter without using decimals. Look at where the line ends. If it's past the 5, round up. If it's below the 5, round down. So in this case, the line to the nearest centimeter is 3. Now let's take a look at some other things you need to remember when you measure in the metric system. Let's review. If you have the width of a piece of pencil lead and you lay it down on a ruler, remember that that's about as wide as 1 millimeter. If you take 10 of those pencil leads and put them next to each other, you get the width of 1 finger. The width of 1 finger is about 1 centimeter. If you take 10 centimeters and put them together, you get the width of 1 hand, which is approximately a decimeter. Then if you put 10 decimeters side by side, you get one whole meter. Notice that our metric rulers are only 30 centimeters long. That's not even close to a whole meter. But we often use these to measure things that are shorter than a meter, such as this word metric. If I wanted to measure the word metric, I would need to start at the 0 point on my ruler, make sure it's lined up exactly with the word. Then I would need to line up the end of my ruler with wherever the word ends. So I can see here, if I draw a line straight down from the letter C, I can see that it's not quite to the very end of 9 centimeters. So what I need to do is take a look at, okay, I have 8 whole centimeters, and now I need to look at how many millimeters. The centimeters are marked by the long lines, and the millimeters are marked by the short lines. So if I add these up, I have 8.9 centimeters. Remember, 8 is the number of centimeters I had, 9 is the number of millimeters I had. If you're using a meter stick, it's important to always remember to start with the 0 pointed at the first edge of whatever you're measuring. When you get to the end of your meter stick, make sure you carefully mark using your pencil or your finger or another ruler where that ends. Don't mark the very end of the meter stick if the meter stick ends before the end. Then move your meter stick back down. Remember to start the meter stick at 0 where it lines up with the mark you made. Now if we go all the way to the end here, we see I'm not quite 1 full meter stick away. So let's get a close-up view of what that looks like. So I know my meter stick is upside down, but as you can see, the line ends here. So far, I've gone 1 meter, and from this mark, I've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 decimeters. But I'm not quite at the mark. Now I need to look at centimeters and millimeters. I've gone 80 centimeters, which is the same as 8 decimeters. I'm not at 81 centimeters yet, so I need to count the number of millimeters in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm at 7 millimeters. So how would you write this? Notice, I have 1 meter plus another 8 decimeters plus no more whole centimeters plus 7 millimeters. This distance appears to be 1.807 meters. This is how you measure on your measuring distance paper when it asks you the distance of the classroom and the distance of your desk. So describing length in different units. Each digit in the measurement represents one of the units we've learned about. For example, if we look at the term 125.489 meters, which digit represents the meters or the millimeters, and so on. Start by taking a look at your digits all spread out. Find the one that has the decimal point with it. This is the one that goes with whatever unit is listed. So the 5 means there are 5 whole meters in this length. If we work our way to the left, in addition to those 5 meters, we also have 2 decameters and 1 hectometer. That makes the term 125 meters if it stopped there. But since our measurement continues, that must mean we have something less than 1 whole meter beyond that. We have 4 decimeters plus 8 centimeters plus an additional 9 millimeters. So when we read the term together, if it's given the unit meters, it's 125.489 meters. But we could read this same term in any of these other units. Hopefully that clarifies what you need to do in order to measure length in science this year.